Okay, part two. David's put a jumper on.
Temperature's dropping.
That sweet sun has dropped in the last 30 minutes.
So, strength work.
Strength work. Let's get into it. Yeah, just give us an explanation of kind of like the principles that have been used here, the kind of angles that they're going to go in at, how this 6-week phase 7 with the deload is going to run into the kind of like remainder of the season. Not so much talk about the remainder of the season, but how is it setting us up for further down the line?
So strength work is one of the focuses for this phase we spoke about earlier. We are building strength through 4 main movements, which are our back squat, deadlift, strict press, and bench press. We also then are building strength through the accessory movements that follow those movements on those days. And those accessory movements are targeting, we'll talk about them more specifically later, but they're targeting muscles that contribute towards those movements and those movement pathways. So as we mentioned earlier, lower body push, hip hinge, upper body push pull through the horizontal plane, movement, and then through vertical as well. And then core stuff to keep your trunk stable while you're doing the lifting. It's a 2-part phase. So we have 2 3-week blocks, where in the first of those 3 weeks, the volume is relatively high and the load is low. Then as we move through into week 2, the volume decreases to a moderate level and the load increases to a moderate level. And then in the final, in the 3rd week, we've got low volume, very relatively heavy weights. And then we repeat that for another 3-week phase. And that makes up the 6-week training phase of this 7-week block. And then the 7th week, we have deload. We are a bit more towards like the hypertrophy end of the spectrum in this first 6 weeks. And by that, what I mean is that we're not handling maximal loads that are more like commonly associated with strength. So we're not spending so much time in that kind of 3 to 6 rep range. We're more spending time in upwards of like 6 to 10, and in your max effort sets, probably closer to kind of like the 15, 16 rep range. And the reason for that is that in terms of like building strength in the long term, we've spent quite a bit of time high intensity lifting heavy loads as we've just come back off the back of a competition season. If we go straight back into doing the same thing, there's a very high chance that we're going to become resistant to that training and stop adapting to the strength work, because the longer that we give the body the same stimulus for, the less responsive it's going to be. And B, we've got also the potential just to start getting overtrained, start to get like niggles and aches and pains just from trying to push the heavy loads for so long. So by taking a step away from that, we allow the body to resensitize so that when we do get back to those heavy loads, it responds much better to them.
Yeah.
The second part of that is that a larger muscle has the potential to be a stronger muscle, and we're not trying to add body weight for the long term, so that's because we don't want to be heavier athletes, but we do by having a slightly larger muscles coming off of the back of like this relatively short hypertrophy phase, we then have the potential to make them stronger for as we get into the strength work in the next phase. So it's almost what we call phase potentiation, which is basically just arranging the training in an order that means that the training that we do now makes the next load of training more effective.
Yeah, and I think these are always the they're not the glamorous ends of the program, are they? Like the glamorous ends are when you get the chance to like max out and put the weight and you start thinking about the numbers. This is just like, but you don't get that glamorous end without this. So this is just kind of like, like I say, we called this type of phase last year, like laying the foundations.
Yeah.
You've got to put something down there. You've got to come back. We hope that everyone comes back into the next competition season in a stronger, fitter, more skillful, like as a better athlete. So you've got to kind of step back and rebuild to be able to keep advancing on, year after year. For me, like these, I love the maxing out. I'll be honest. I love I'm going to offer 2 RM back squat, minting 190 or something, and just belting up and going for it. But like I've always done that off the back of something like this. And what gets me through these phases, because it's not so like glamorous, it's just knowing like that when the time comes, you're going to get all these good quality reps in the bank, and then you know that there's a very high chance that when you get your chance to go for it, like you going in a position where you can't fail really if you've stuck to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's just another good thing that I like keeping in the back of mind when I go through these phases, like what gets me through them, and it gets me excited for when I get the chance to. But
and this I think what you said there about that this is what leads on to the sexy stuff is a very important point, and one people really need to think about when you say that. The stuff that's posted on the gram, the max lifts, the stuff that you see in competition is not what got them to that point. They're not maxing out every day. We're not maxing out every day. That's not there's a time and a place for that for a short period of time, but long before that, the building blocks that lead to that moment are what we're doing now.
Exactly.
And that's a good way to think about it. Is some people, I love this stuff. I love the building, the grinding, the higher volume training with and that kind of like off-season grindy style training. But if you're someone that lives for the max out, then keep that in mind and know that you're laying the bricks for that max out later on.
I think it's an important thing, like message to get across is this phase isn't about the numbers. This phase, like it's not about the numbers in like the PBs, how much weight you're hitting. Like there'll often be like an explanation of how we want to make this set feel, like 8 RPE or 9 RPE or 6 or 7, or like leave 1 or 2 reps in reserve. It's all about kind of like getting that that stimulus that's enough, but just making sure that it keeps kind of like developing and progressing each week, but it's not like hitting that top end stimulus every single time. It's about building the body up to be ready for that in a future point in the phases when it is about peaking the strength.
And I think that this is something that I wish I had done a bit earlier on as well, is think more in terms of the long game and understand that I don't need to be doing now what I want to be doing in 6 months' time. What I need to be doing now is making sure that the training that I'm doing now is putting me in the best possible position to perform in that 6 months. And that means that, like you say, that they're like, follow the reps in reserve, follow when it's 3, hit that 3 reps in reserve, hit that 2, so that when it does come time for the all out set, the 0 reps in reserve or the 10 RPE, you're ready for it because you haven't tried to push that every session up to that point.
Exactly. And not only physically ready for it, like you're mentally like really up for it as well.
Yes.
It's also an important part to it. Cool. And then the accessory work kind of alongside there is, again, within that phase overview, if people can have a read, there's a really good quote, or just kind of like, whether you call it a quote, about strength and stability, and whether if strength exceeds stability, what happens, and vice versa. I'll read it out there. So if strength exceeds stability, then you have a risk of injury, an increased risk of injury. But if stability exceeds strength, then you reduce the risk of injury. So in a nutshell, that says, like, if you've got loads and loads of strength, but you can't control all of that strength, then something is going to have to try and control that strength. And it usually is joints and ligaments and tendons. Or it could be muscle groups that kind of have to try and control it, but they can't. And that's where an injury will come. But if you prepare the muscles, the tendons, and the ligaments to be able to control that in this period of phase now, if we go back to what we were just saying about the raw strength building, when it does get to the point where we peak that raw strength, we've got the stability so that when we can go for the big heavy weights, we know we can do it. Our body's ready for it. And our body in terms of like the joints, the muscles, the tendons are ready for it. And then we're probably more likely to feel better to be able to mentally be ready for it and go for it as well.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Again, we did a similar kind of approach to this in terms of like the single leg. There's going to be quite a lot of single leg work in there, like you say, they're bulletproofing around the joints, like the main joints that are going to be involved in each movement, and just making sure that everything's hitting, like the different movement patterns were equally hitting every area, so that we've not got the imbalances, and we should hopefully then come out of this phase, or hopefully we should now, after this previous phase, be kind of feeling good in the body, and continue to feel good because of this work as well. Is there anything you want to add there with the accessory work? I know because there's a note there about the volume of that, and that's something that we had spoke about just the other day as well.
Yeah, so a couple of things, the core work and the volume. So the core work, I think something that's often neglected. I know we've included quite a bit on JST Compete. I know in the past I've not included it in my own training, wish I had done more of it, is core training that focuses less on creating a movement and more on resisting a movement. And by that, what we mean is we're doing toes to bar, we're doing GHD sit-ups, we're doing hip extensions, we're doing movements where our core is responsible for creating a movement, as opposed to movements where single arm dumbbell farmers carries, Sorensen holds, GHD face up holds, split stance, pad off presses. These are all movements where the core is responsible for staying tight and keeping tension and not moving whilst a weight or a force is trying to get you to rotate or flex or extend. And these movements are really important because that's exactly the same thing that we're doing, and that's exactly the same way that the core is having to work when we're doing our snatches, cleans, deadlifts, squats, our heavy carries, and a lot of other movements like even like barbell cycling in CrossFit. So the better the core is at stabilizing the spine and keeping it where it needs to be instead of flexing, then the better we can then apply force with the rest of our body, and also the less chance of injury we have as well.
Absolutely. I think the what's the word, the saying, or the way to think about it, like that I look at it sometimes, if there is a weakness in that core there, let's say we've built loads of leg strength from this cycle, but then let's say you just miss all this core workout because you can't be bothered, and then you're wanting the
which neither of us have definitely ever done in our careers before. Definitely not.
And then you sack off the core work, and then you expect like, oh yeah, my leg's going to get stronger, but then you start doing thrusters and you don't quite get like that carryover of this leg strength work, and thrusters still feel really hard because what's happening if you do have a weakness in that kind of midsection when you're going through movements, especially when you're going through movements fast, is the energy can just kind of like dissipate because your whole body hasn't got that connection from the lower body to the upper body. In the CrossFit level 1, they call it core to extremities. And if you have weak points from the core to the extremities, whether it's extremities back into the core or vice versa, there's going to be energy lost like out of the weaker areas. And that's kind of what you see when you see people with muscular imbalances, when people maybe squat to one side, like they have a hip shift, they squat to one side, like there is going to be an amount of energy that's lost because both legs aren't working equally. So, you're not working efficiently. You can work just as hard and work more effectively and efficiently by having things balanced and making sure that every area is contributing. So it's important not only in injuries, but also like this is like putting the dots together of all of the strength work and all of the gymnastics work. As well.
I mean, it's called a core for a reason, right? It's the center of everything else. That's the point that, like you say, like if that's weak, where you're going to get the energy leakage. On the volume as well. When they go through the first week of the program, especially maybe like the first week, 2 weeks, the volume is low. It's purposely low. It's intentionally low. It's supposed to be if we are hitting the right reps in reserve on these exercises, we're going to be stimulating a response from the body to get stronger in those areas. And as long as we get that stimulus, we don't necessarily need a whole lot more because we've also got a bunch of gymnastics and conditioning and skill work and movement work to also get done as well. So we don't want to hammer ourselves with loads of accessory work when we're following the main trunk. It's enough to give you what you need, but as the weeks go on, that volume is going to increase. So in this first week, resist the urge to add in extra sets and add in extra volume because you don't feel like you've worked hard enough, because the point is you want to basically just work just hard enough to get the response right now, so that you leave enough in the tank that you can make progress in the next week and the following week after that and the week after that. Because come week 6, you will not be feeling like you need to add more volume.
Yeah, you'll be ready for that at week 7.
Yeah, the worst case would be that, like, you get into week 1, you're fired up, you've got loads of energy, you really want to get after it, so you add in extra volume, you survive, you feel good week 1. Week 2, yeah, okay, you can handle week 2. Week 3 and 4 come and you're like starting to like barely hang on and survive because you're so fatigued from weeks of the extra stuff you did in week 1 and 2. And by week 5 and 6, you're having to decrease the volume. Yeah. So you don't want to be doing that while everybody else is doing this.
Yeah, exactly. And did you know what, the experience I've of coaching kind of other athletes, it's quite a common thing that a lot of people, when they need to hold it back, will go for it. And when they need to go for it, they have to hold it back because they've already gone for it.
The same could be said in workouts as well, I think, not just in in training.
Cool. On to gymnastics. This is a kind of a cycle that we spent quite a lot of time kind of thinking about and planning, and I wish I don't think we'll let people see the back end of the spreadsheets and how the kind of exercise selection, everything's been put together, but there's been a lot of detail put together in that for this, for them to see the kind of session that we got. So there's quite a lot of thought behind to it. There's quite a lot of reasoning, but I think it also might be quite new to a lot of people on the program. We've done similar things in a different fashion before, using the same principles, but maybe not so much like just in this way. We've called it the TUT phase, so time under tension, and that's generally what we're after. Is we're after constant time under tension for the amount of time that each kind of set. Like, does it start at 60 seconds? Does it, if I remember rightly?
Yeah, it's about 60 seconds work in the first couple of weeks. Yep.
And that's the really important thing, is that we want to make sure that 60 seconds time frame is constant work. It's constant time that your body is under tension, and it's not 10 seconds work, 8 seconds transition, 10 seconds work, transition, because then it may as well just be 10 on, like 10 off. It's 60 seconds constant, and that's a really important message to get across when people choose like when to move on to the next exercise, and maybe even what exercise to start at. There's levels, isn't there, in the levels that people can start on.
There's levels to this.
There's many levels to this. But there's levels in terms of what exercise people can start on, and then what they continue to move through as the kind of fatigue kicks in. And the idea is that everyone should then continue to be able to do level 4 for the remainder of that time.
Level 1, because it goes down from 4 to 1. Yeah.
What were your thought process? Because we spoke about this. How have you kind of attacked this in terms of planning this out for the week?
So Steve's being modest there. This is his wizardry, the gymnastics TUT phase, and he presented this idea to me, which I recognise you'd already used in a bit of mine and Emma's training in the past. And Emma's been doing quite a bit of it recently with like pretty good success, like good progress between the sessions. So I've taken the idea and run with it, and put together a combination of pieces that attack different demands for the movement. So we identified the different demands that like on the body for the movement. So for example, with the ring muscle ups, we have the pressing strength, pressing endurance. We have the pulling, And we also have the like anti-extension that's required to, like, when you get into the front of your arch and transition back into the hollow as well. So that you could almost call that like kind of kip endurance. And then we've created pieces that attack these different demands on the body. So you've got 2 of these sessions a week. On the Tuesday, it's ring muscle up, followed by a toes to the bar, and on the Friday it's ring muscle up. On the Tuesday it's ring muscle up followed by a strict handstand push up, and on the Friday it's ring muscle up followed by toes to the bar work. And each session, although you'll be doing the same movements each week, each session attacks a different demand for that movement. So the first time you do ring muscle ups, you're working on pressing, the pressing aspect of ring muscle up. The second time you're going to be working on the kip, the anti-extension. The third time you might be working on the pulling. And then the same thing with the strict handstand push-ups. We've got like the pressing strength, the straight arm strength and stability, and like similar aspects for the toes to bar. So we're rotating through those. So by the end of the phase, you will have done like quite a significant amount of work in the time on detention format, working on different aspects of those movements that also don't just attack your efficient or improve your efficiency on those movements, but they also carry over to our other movements as well. So the ring muscle up is obviously going to carry over well to the bar muscle up. It's going to carry over well to the chest to bar in terms of like the pulling as well and the kipping. And the same thing goes for the other gymnastics movements as well.
Yeah, I think like to give a bit of a reasoning behind, like, you know, why we need to work for so long. If you think everyone's got a goal of like how many ring muscle ups they maybe want to do unbroken, or how many chest to bars they want to do unbroken. And let's say like, I don't know, gold standardly, everyone wants to be able to do 30 ring muscle ups like unbroken. Like whether it's possible for some people, that might be, you know, it might be 10 for some people, but you've got to be able to do that. Your body has to be able to work in that movement pattern for that period of time. So let's say 30 ring muscle ups unbroken, it probably take 90 seconds actually. So if that's a goal for someone, this is a high-end goal, like I said, their body needs to be able to learn to be able to work in that movement pattern for that period of time. And if it never has done, then it never will do. Like, and there has to be a progression to be able to work towards being able to move in that period of time. And that's why each element of each movement. So like you said, with the ring muscle ups, we've got the press and we've got the pull, and then we've got the kip. Like each of those elements needs to be able to work comfortably for that period of time to be able to bring it all together to work when it's the full movement. And we're trying to go for like bigger sets that we've maybe not been able to do previously. It's kind of like it's just it's preparing your body and putting through the stress that it needs to go through, or that you want it to go through, just at like a lower level, in a similar way how like with the strength work that we're doing, it's working on a lower level to be able to let you go to that higher level. For a lot of people, they're going to be doing, some people might not have done press ups on the knees or strict dumbbell presses with 5 or 10 kilo dumbbells for a long time in their life, but they're going to be doing them. It's going to be a bit of an ego check.
I tell you, I did one of these pieces that you gave me yesterday. And if anyone walked into the gym then, they would have wondered what the hell was going on, because I was pissing sweat and like grunting like a madman doing dumbbell rows with 10 kilos. And that was like, by that point in the piece was max effort. Yeah. So,
it goes to show though, doesn't it? It's like you want to be able to do, 60, 70 chest bars unbroken. And if you're hitting that point after a minute's worth of pulling, where you're on 10 kilos and you've got a body weight of, 100, possibly. Hands looking maybe 105. Like that why you can't do it. Like, so you need to build up to that point. You can't expect to do it if your body's not being prepared to do it.
And the reality, and using that example of the time, if you think about it in terms of, okay, you want to do, like we say, use the example of the 30 ring muscle ups, and say it takes 90 seconds to do, and we have a 90-second window here. the top level for the or level 4, which is the highest level for the movement that you would start on if you could do ring muscle ups, or you're following the elite or intermediate categories of the workout, you will do then ring muscle ups for 90 seconds. And if you can do ring muscle ups for 90 seconds, brilliant, you've just done 30 ring muscle ups. But if you can't do ring muscle ups for 90 seconds, you can do it for a minute, then you've done that minute of ring muscle ups, and now you're doing 30 seconds of ring dips, or you're doing 30 seconds of ring muscle ups, 30 seconds of ring dips, 30 seconds jumping ring muscle ups. So it makes sense in terms of maybe to think of it in terms of what you just said there, and that we're accumulating as much time of tension under tension at the highest level that we can, and the only reason why we drop down is because we can't hold on for that period of time.
Yeah. And this is where it's really important when you do drop down, because we're not asking you to go to physical failure each time. We were asking you to drop down just before that failure comes, so that you can then just transition. Sometimes it might mean just picking up a different bit of kit or moving your body to another station, so you can just transition pretty much instantly and keep that tension in the muscle group that needs to be working. That's a really important detail that could make the difference between, you know, this phase being really successful and this phase like not being as successful. Don't try and stick to like big numbers. Just feel every rep, keep feeling every rep, and then as soon as you feel like you've hit the amount of reps that the program's told you that you need to drop down before, whether it's 2 to 3 reps in reverse or in reserve or whatever, like listen to that and move on. And like I said, you'll get your chance to fill your basket full of eggs further down the line. I think we should go. So we've got the movement work in there, haven't we? And there's just another good way of people to learn and you know, have a little play around with if you get the extra bit of time just to kind of learn about the body, where's tight, and learn how they can you know, keep themselves moving well. They probably are just more like educational pieces, because I think they'll probably find a lot of that from the other work that's in the program in terms of the accessory work and things. They're really valuable pieces that people can, you know, they might only be in the program now, but remember those pieces for future. Like something works particularly well, then keep doing them just because they're not in the program. Like if it works really well, then just keep going with it. The conditioning we're particularly proud of in terms of how it's structured. Talk to me about it. So we've got tic-tacs on Monday.
Tic-tac sessions. Why is it called tic-tac?
Yeah, tic-tacs on Monday, and then then we'll go through. So tic-tac sessions from the tic-tac master himself.
We are focusing on the tactics, and hence the name. Hopefully, I thought this was an ingenious name, but when I told Emma, she just looked very unimpressed. So I'm hoping that there's other people.
Tic-tacs in Sweden, like, is it a thing?
She knew what tic-tacs were, but I'm not sure that she's grown up with that kind of like the hype that having a little tub of Tic Tacs had at school when we were growing up. So I'm not sure it was as effective. But anyway, we're focusing on tactics on the Tic Tac sessions. And you and I spoke about giving each of the conditioning sessions a week a specific purpose and a specific goal. So we're not just going in there and hammering ourselves and hoping that we're improving. We're like pinpointing specific things that we want to focus on each session. On the Monday session, we're focusing on tactics. We're focusing on strategies. So how you are attacking the workout. We're still putting in a big physical effort, but we're taking the priority. We're putting the priority on thinking about what strategy we're applying to finishing the workout, as opposed to putting the emphasis on just finishing it as fast as possible by any means necessary. And to help with that learning experience, each one of those workouts has some like suggestive tactics and ways to approach the workout. On this first week, for instance, you're going to do your first round specifically in big unbroken sets, still sub-maximal, but you're going to go for like touch and go on the barbell. You're going to try and hold onto the wall ball for a bit longer and stay on the bar for the toes to bar a bit longer. And then once you've gone through the rest and recovery after the first round, you're then going to do the same workout again, but you're going to chop it into smaller sets with short rest. And that way, taking the fatigue into the account, we've got like a decent rest period between the pieces. You get into experience what it's like to do bigger sets with more rest versus smaller sets with shorter rest. And once you have that experience, you can take the results of that away. And when you next attack a workout that has 50, 70, 80, 100 reps of a movement, you can better understand how you respond to those different tactics and how to attack it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's important to saying that these tactics probably won't be the most effective way to do the workout, in terms of it won't be the way that you're going to finish this workout the fastest. And that's not what these sessions, like you say, are about. It's about giving you the tools so that when it comes to the time when you need to figure these things out yourself, like qualifiers or events in workouts, or even like mid-event in the middle of an arena when there's 100 people watching you, you need to be able to have that thought process, because maybe you've got no reps left, right, and center, and then you realize that you need to do like X amount of reps left, and you're able to think and you're able to tune those thoughts and think and make the right decisions because you've been training this area in your training. And training's not just been about going in and walloping yourself just for the time on the stopwatch.
Yeah. I when you said there about that, I take it as a massive compliment. Called me there when you said on the tactics, the tic tacs master, the tactics master. I think this is something that I consider almost my special weapon when competing, because I know for a fact that there've been many competitions and many events in the past that I've been able to perform better than people who are probably physically better than fitter or stronger than me at those workouts, because I've been able to apply my fitness more effectively through using better tactics in the workout, having a better strategy, and just generally staying switched on and thinking about how I'm moving, what I'm doing, being aware of other people. And this is all in the same effort to try and turn athletes into like thinking athletes that are switched on, and they're approaching it with like, how can I get the absolute most out of my fitness in this workout by approaching it the best way possible, as opposed to just attacking it and hoping that the fitness will carry them through. Because to the point that the sport is reaching at the moment, you can't leave those stones unturned. It's not good enough just to be fit. Like you have to be a thinking athlete as well.
Yeah. And the word that you said there is like being able to stay focused. And it's not something that you just are. Like you aren't good at that in an event because you were born with it. Like you get good at that. It's a cognitive skill that you need to train. Not only train when you're at rest and when you're thinking about it, and you're going through it in like in imagery and just kind of like running through the situation, but you also need to do it under fatigue and be able to have that cognitive function under high levels of fatigue and stress and pressure, to be able to then do it on a competition floor or in a qualifying workout when the tensions are a little bit higher. And this is the point now where we start to build those tools for when it comes to competing. Those things just aren't like, they're not just a given.
No.
The trained.
Tuesday,
yeah.
No conditioning on the Tuesday.
Yep.
Which we've removed because, as we spoke about earlier on in the season, we're not trying to bulk out. We're not trying to like hit a huge volume of training. We've got a tough training day on Monday. We've got a tough training day on Wednesday, and we've also got the strength and time and attention session on the Tuesday. So no need to have the extra conditioning in there on the Tuesday at the moment. Focus the effort, or like it just leaves a bit more capacity for performing on the Monday, the Wednesday, and what's left of the Tuesday, what's already in the Tuesday session as well.
Yeah.
And we've got on the Wednesday session.
Yeah, the Wednesday session. So it's very similar, really, the reasons and everything behind it, to the Monday session with the tic tacs. The tactic session, we're thinking about how to do things in terms of like how to split things up in sets and set ranges and rest periods. but Wednesday it's more thinking about how we're moving on things and how we're executing them like physically rather than mentally, like breaking them up, like how we're moving when we're breathing in, when we're breathing out, like little technique tweaks that you might kind of little goals that you might give yourself, to be able to again further develop your armory, if that's the right word, so that you're going into workout more prepared because you've got these different tools to be able to dial in, dial out any given time. And there's two really good explanations there that I'll not repeat now. People read there, number 1 and number 2, as again to explain like why those sessions are really valuable.
And I think that people will find in these sessions as well that they have, with the explanations that we're given for the exercises and different techniques that they can use, is even if they're like we're suggesting using a technique that's the opposite of what, or different to what they would usually use, is just play around with it and experiment with it. Use these sessions to see how it feels, because like you've said there about dial in, dial out, how you do a certain movement might be forced to change if one day you do a workout and you've had to do 100 GHD sit-ups before it, or you've had to do like a load of deficit handstand push-ups. Now maybe you need to find a new way of doing that movement, and if you've had a practice of these different techniques here, you'll probably find a more efficient way of doing it, and if you don't, you'll at least have found a different way of doing it that could be, as you say, like another tool in the toolbox in the future.
That's and if you're the tic tac man, I feel like I'm that guy. I could probably do the same exercise with 5 different techniques to like adjust and move around depending on what the demands of that workout are. I feel like that's what
Bob the Builder.
Bob the Builder. There you go. And then Saturday is the chance that we can remove all of those tactics and ways to think, and you can actually, well, not remove them, but you can use them.
Forget it all. Just go for it.
But yeah, whiteboard workout. Again, everyone knows what the whiteboard workout is by now, but it's just a chance to use what we've learned midweek, finish the week with a workout that we're just asking you to go as fast as you can, like get the best score, get the best time, put it up against in the leaderboard against everyone else, like see where you rank, have a little bit of a competition about it. And just finish the week with a good, fun, hard CrossFit workout, where you can go all in, and I think we'll like finishing the week on that note. So I think that's everything there. That's how we're going for this phase. I'm excited.
Don't forget to give us a name.
Yes,
don't forget to help us out with a name.
When you said about the core of the Earth, I was like, oh, we've got a theme there, and this is the core. Like, what's that core called? It's called something. Anyway.
All right, we'll have to find out. So maybe we're going to move out. We're going to start with like this is the core, and then we're moving out to like the different layers of the
crust. Look at me on the edge.
Yeah,
Jack a bit all over that with his geography and geophysics degree. Cool. Right. Thank you, David. Thanks for your time.
No, thank you. It's been fun. It's been nice going over the phase and looking forward to seeing how people find it.
Yeah, definitely. And as always, guys, get your comments, your moaning comments, and your banter and your crack in the athlete group. Just let us know how it's going on. Cool. Enjoy.
See you guys.
See you later.